What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about how to pivot off on your opponent. Take an angle so you can exploit them from that new position that you have created. This is something that can be done defensively and offensively, and we're going to talk about all of it today. In the martial arts world, we use pivot, the terminology, in a number of ways. When you throw a round kick, you can pivot. When you cut an angle, you can also pivot. Basically, that means that the lead leg, usually the lead leg, could also be the back leg pivoting, I suppose, but one of the feet that is planted to the floor catches an angle. Now, the first thing you have to understand when you do this is which part of your foot is staying connected to the floor and which part comes away. If you keep your foot flat and you try and turn, your foot sticks. There's this very sticky feeling because the surface area is greater. But if you elevate your foot, especially to the ball of the foot, when you push off, it's easy to catch that angle. You could do this on your heel, but then you're gonna feel that you're very off balance in comparison to being up on the ball of the foot, because the toes, they can dig into the floor and they help with the grip, as opposed to the heel, which just is one small surface area with nothing else around to help stabilize. So that's the first thing. For kicks or for cutting angles, we pivot the foot, and we do that by lifting the heel and then angling the foot. Now from here, we need to recognize that there are two stages, or at least two stages in my opinion, where you can use a pivot, cutting that angle very well. Number one, defensively, and number two, offensively. If I'm just in a neutral zone with my opponent, you know, they're just outside of punch range, there's not really much point in me cutting that angle. It doesn't make much sense, and from a very far distance, again, doesn't make any sense. It's when somebody is in tight, they're within punching range, that now when I cut the angle, they're still facing this way, but I can exploit them because I go into my attack. So first, let's talk about offensively when we would use this pivot and how we can go about doing it. The first thing that you can do is you can just be stationary, and with your back leg, you just push and cut the angle. If I was to do this facing away from you, you should be able to recognize that it's my back foot that cuts the angle, and I always move in the direction of the heel. I do not want to move the opposite direction because that just puts me in a parallel stance. So I push off my back foot, and now I cut that angle. I'm not trying to achieve 90 degrees. I'm not trying to go from this wall to that wall. I'm just trying to cut a very minor amount, maybe 30, 40, maybe 45 degrees, depending on how close I am to my opponent. And that plays a big part. So offensively, when might we do this? Well, we could tie it in with an attack off our lead arm. So for example, I could step in, go jab, cross, land these two shots really hard, cut my angle with the hook. And I could end off my three-piece combo being out of position. So if my opponent takes the shots, he blocks, he blocks, he blocks the hook, but now he goes to counter. Instead of me being right here, I'm now over there. This is a great time at the end of offense to use this tactic. But it's not only done off hands, it can also be done off the leg. I could throw a big body round kick, and then instead of coming back to where my foot started, I could put it over here. So I land on that angle cut. And this works especially well against a southpaw or somebody who's in the opposite stance. When I throw the round kick, and now I come and I land here, I'm still set up to attack, but they're facing this direction. And again, this is best served at a closer distance. I might not want to do this on a round kick where I'm more landing with my foot. It's more when I land with my shin, I'm crashing in, and then I cut the angle, and then I can follow up with my punch when they can't follow up because that angle is cut. Now, a little extra piece of info is I don't have to keep this foot right here to achieve my pivot. In fact, I prefer to sometimes take a little step. I get my foot to the outside, so now when I pivot, I feel a little bit more square, as opposed to having my feet planted in their ideal stance, cutting and feeling like I'm in a little bit of a bladed stance now. I like to come, if I'm facing this way, I like to come with a step and then cut my angle so I still end up squared. So that's something in addition which you can add in. So far we've talked about jab, cross, hook, and the pivot, or jab, cross, I could just step on the cross, jab, cross, and then angle, or I could come round kick, cut the angle, or a little step before, step round kick, and then cut that angle. But this is not the only time I can utilize that. This is all offensive. What if I want to use this defensively? Well, we have probably something that many of you know, which is called the check hook. We saw Mayweather do this very well against Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton was charging towards him, and Mayweather used that technique, which you already did offensively, where you pivot while you throw the left hook. We went offensive like that, boom. But you could just be here, have somebody come in with straight punches, angle, and check hook. That one defensively, boom, works very, very well. You could also do something like somebody runs towards you, they're throwing punches, you come with a knee, and then you just cut that pivot. You cut that angle just a little bit in that case, because they're gonna be very close to you. They're moving towards me, I throw the knee up, and I just cut the smallest little angle. So now if they continue through, they no longer have that striking surface right in front of them. Really, there are a whole bunch of ways to use this pivot and create that angle, and it's just down to what you guys prefer, what you feel is best. You could step in and go jab, hook, and before we were talking about pivoting off the hook, but no, you don't do that now. You just go jab, hook, you throw your uppercut, and then you just angle. You could do something like that. You could come front kick, drop, and cut your angle, or front kick, drop, little step, cut your angle. Basically, all you need to do is make your opponent chase you. That is the objective, not giving them a target that is right in front of them. This is easy. To attack, somebody cuts over there, I have to move, and then I can attack. I can't do this and be effective with my punching power. It has to be straight in front, or the angle, I angle, the angle back, I angle. All of this works incredibly well, but is very difficult to do. However, you can work this very easy on the bag. Next time you get on the bag, just hit some shots square, take a little step if you want, cut your angle, hit the bag again. You could jump back to the center and then use that check hook, and you get that little pivot off time and time again. And then guess what? All of a sudden you will start executing it in sparring, and you'll realize, whoa, this works so well. I don't even have to defend the shots because the guy is aiming over here. And while he cuts his angle, I'm already hitting him, and then I can back out. Who are some fighters that are extremely good at using that pivot to cut an angle? Off the top of my head, one of the greatest to do it is Giorgio Petrosian. He will come from his southpaw stance very often. He'll either hit and then cut the angle as he throws his hook, or he'll throw some shots, he'll throw his round kick, and then he'll angle off. He is spectacular at doing this. Boxers, there are so many who cut angles. It's almost like if you don't cut angles and you don't pivot as you box, you're a step behind everybody else. So much more commonplace to see in boxing. We see it less frequently in other fight styles, other martial arts, but if you can add it in, it's gonna level you up above everybody else. And that is my talk with you about pivoting. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I'll see you back here soon.